We spoke with Aaron Connolly, a research fellow at the Australia-based Lowy Institute for International Policy and author of a blog post focused on Widodo's new cabinet. Connolly joins us from Sydney via Skype. Now, so what is your general analysis on the people he has appointed in the cabinet?
Well, I think there are four different ways to look at the selections for Jokowi's cabinet. There's a number of ministers in there, specifically in portfolios where he has said this is going to be a priority for him, that he's really going to focus on these issues like maritime affairs, like transportation. He's chosen technocrats and former businessmen with a record of success. That signals to me that he's really going to push very hard on those and that he has the people he wants in those positions. Another way to look at it, though, is to look at the positions where he has not expressed very strong interest, and that's foreign affairs, defense, and in those positions, he's really put in place in foreign affairs a professional. That's usual for the foreign ministry. That's not terribly unusual. And then on defense, he's chosen a Megawati loyalist who was her chief of the army, and that's perhaps a less positive sign. I'd say there are two other ways to look at it, but go ahead.
So is this a sign of compromise? You spoke about that, and it is both the combination of principle and compromise. So this is where he compromises, that he actually appoints confidants of Megawati, showing that her position in this whole administration is still very, very strong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Megawati influence is all over the cabinet, and I think it's very clear that she's going to play a key role in this administration, if not in setting policy, then certainly in terms of determining who will be responsible for those policies. So Megawati was never known to be terribly interested in policy when she was president. And so it's not terribly surprising if she doesn't push specific policies, but she does want to be seen as the matriarch of the party. And the way she does that is put her allies in place in the administration.
Now, concerning in the sectors or in the divisions he puts less interest in, as you've mentioned in your posts, in the foreign affairs, also defense. Is this a reason why he picked Retno? Because she's seen as a very strong person from the foreign ministry, and she was seen as the ambassador to the Netherlands and Norway. And the gist that we get here in the newsroom is that she's actually a good pick for Jokowi, considering he's less experienced in his interest in trying to pursue foreign relations. Do you think that this is why she was appointed?
Well, I think it was never in question, really, that Jokowi was going to appoint a professional diplomat to lead the foreign ministry. But there was some question about what kind of professional diplomat he was going to appoint. And Ibu Retno is, certainly as the first female foreign minister of Indonesia, that's certainly a sign of progress in terms of gender relations. But, this is a very orthodox choice by Jokowi. Ibu Retno has not shown that she views things differently than, say, Pak Marty or Pak Hasan. And so I think that, we should not get too caught up in the fact that she's the first female foreign minister or the fact that she's a professional diplomat. Those are, set those aside, and this is very much a down-the-line foreign ministry Kemlu decision.
How do you think Retno and Jokowi would work together in improving international relations? What will be the first few steps, aside from the summits Jokowi has to attend in the next few months? What will be the first policy they should focus on?
Yeah, well, the immediate question is whether or not he goes to the G20. And if he goes to the G20, whether he goes to APEC in Beijing. I've argued that if he doesn't go to the G20, he shouldn't go to Beijing either. There's no additional gain to be had by going to Beijing when he's already going to go to Myanmar the very next few days. He'll see all the same people in Myanmar. Unless he's very interested in meeting the president of Chile, he'll see all the same people in Myanmar that he would see in Beijing. So if he's worried about spreading himself too thin in these early weeks and not spending too much time on foreign affairs, he should just go to Naypyidaw. But I actually think he should go to all three summits because, Prabowo talked about this as a weakness of Jokowi during the campaign. And so if he doesn't go to these summits, I expect Keyampa to really push him on that and to say, are you prepared to lead Indonesian foreign relations? And I think he is. It's not unprecedented in global diplomacy to have a president who hasn't been a diplomat or hasn't been a general. That's that's perfectly standard, and Jokowi should go to these summits to demonstrate that he can do these things.
And also, it's a good start for him to introduce himself to the leaders of foreign nations and to start from
Absolutely.
there. Yeah.
And at the G20, a number of important issues important to Jokowi are going to be discussed, like infrastructure financing. And
Yeah.
so, he should be there to be a part of those conversations. I think it would be good for him. It would be good for Indonesia. And it would certainly be a good gesture to make toward Australia, which, of course, just sent its prime minister up to his inauguration.
Now, what would you think is the most pressing issues in terms of bilateral relations for Jokowi, besides having to promote his infrastructure initiative in the country?
Well, in terms of bilateral relations
Yep.
with Australia?
Yep.
I mean, look, if Jokowi's able to accomplish all the things that he has set out to do in the course of his presidency, that would be the greatest contribution he could make to the bilateral relationship, because it would make the investment environment in Indonesia that much better for foreign businesses, and we could see more trade between Australia and Indonesia. And I think that's really important, and Jokowi himself identified that. I should say President Jokowi himself identified that as a priority during the presidential debates back in June. He said there's not enough trade between the two countries, and so the relationship lacks, ballast and lacks trust, and there would be more trust if there were more trade. So I think that would be the best thing that he could do for the bilateral relationship, but that's a very long-term goal. In the short term, it's very important that he and his foreign minister begin to build a strong, positive relationship with their counterparts in Australia, so that when there are crises like there was over the espionage case last year, or over the Australian government's turn back the boats policy, that they can manage those and they can have good conversations and move in to settle any disputes before they get out of hand.
Now, concerning trade, can I ask you just one question? Is that the business community here in Indonesia is doing a wait and see until he appoints his new cabinet? And from there on, it seems that the business community then will be able to decide what they will do in the country. What is the general feel with the business community in Australia towards what's happening here in Indonesia?
I think there's a real curiosity and there's a real enthusiasm for Jokowi. The Australian business community regarded SPY as a friend, and they're certainly sorry to see him go. But they've seen all the excitement in Indonesia about Jokowi, and so they're very curious about what that means. They know that he's has a record of success in Jakarta and Solo, and so they've seen that, and they say, perhaps he can bring that to the national level and improve the investment climate in Indonesia, and that would, of course, be good for Australian business. So some real curiosity, a little bit of a wait-and-see attitude in terms of what his government ends up looking like, and perhaps a little bit of disappointment with the cabinet today, given the inclusion in the cabinet of some PDIP stalwarts whose record on reform is not as good as Jokowi's.
All right, we're out of time. Thanks so much, Aaron.
Yeah, no problem. Nice talking to you. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
No worries. Okay.
All right, bye.
Thanks, bye. And there was Aaron Connolly from Lowy Institute, Sydney.